I think that this is important. Welcome back, friends. Happy Monday. I hope you're all doing well. I want to start out this video with a big word of thanks to Doug Peterson. I got some mail last week, and it was the good kind of mail because it was a card. It was a thank you card, along with a very nice donation. So, Doug, I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. I know you've been around and you've been in this community, shall we say, for a long time, and it's people like you and of course everybody that lends their support on Patreon, and even if you just use those Amazon links down in the description of the video, it all helps, and even all the nice comments. It is the nicest comment section in all of the internet. So to all of you, just thank you very much. It's very humbling. There was a confluence of events in early 2020. There was the pandy, obviously. There was what I can only call a run on the bike shops, which is something that I don't think I ever thought would happen. And then there was the end of the prohibition on selling bicycles outside of your territory, at least for the brands that I sell that had those restrictions in place. So what this has meant is that since then, I would say half of the bikes that I sell on my website. And that certainly has continued since I moved to South Florida. A lot of these customers I have no interaction with. I mean, there's no email, there's no phone call, it's just cha-ching. They buy the bike, I box up the bike and send it on its way. There have been occasions when I will reach out to the customer and say, you know, the steer tube on this bike has not been cut yet. If you can tell me your saddle height or your PBH, and then kind of give me an idea of where you want the handlebars in relation to that, you know, I can make that happen before I cut the steer tube and before I put it in the box and send it to you. And I would say the majority of the people that I've talked to, no idea. The last customer I talked to, and for whatever reason, if you're watching, I'm not picking on you specifically. I asked him about his saddle height, and I think the words he used were, it depends. To which I thought, depends on what? I mean, your saddle height is your saddle height. For as long as I've been riding a bicycle, regardless of the type of bike, my saddle height has basically been the same. There's been a variance of between 5 and 10 millimeters. Once when I went from clipless pedals to flat pedals, and then the biggest change was made when I started riding in, thin-soled shoes. Other than that, your saddle height is a fixed point in space. It should be a constant, at least in my opinion. So you take that piece of information and then you add the fact that it's not going to be too long and Trek and Specialized are going to own the majority of the bike shops in the at least major metropolitan areas, which means your opportunity to go into a shop and actually look at, ride, talk to someone about the products that I sell, and there's I would say probably more than a handful of others, are going to become fewer and fewer. which means you're probably going to have to make an online purchase, which means you should take the reins and go into that process with as much information as you can. My goal from the very beginning is I want you to have a bike that not only does what you need it to do, but is sized properly, and that you can ride for a very long time. I'm not interested in selling you a new bike every year. Now, if you want to buy an additional bike every year, I'm here for it. But I don't care about selling you a new bicycle every year. So how do you go about doing that? Well, first of all, you got to know what your saddle height is. And it's a pretty simple procedure. I'm going to assume for right now that your saddle is set at the correct height. So all you're going to do is you're going to take a metric tape measure. You're going to measure from the center of the bottom bracket to the top of the saddle following the seat tube. Write that number down. And then the other thing I like to do, and this is not hard science, obviously, I'll run a tape from the back of the saddle to the center of the stem, and then from that same point on the back of the saddle to the place where my hands sit. It could be on the grip on a swept-back bar. It could be kind of the middle of the hoods on a drop bar. Write those numbers down. Do a little research on the bike that you're riding. If you've got a bike that you really enjoy, go find a geometry table. What's the seat tube angle? What's the head tube angle? How much bottom bracket drop do you have? You don't need to become a bike geometry wizard. I don't care about trail and all that jazz. Just get some rough numbers and then start to compile a database, either by, on paper or in your head. You've likely got a riding partner, a friend that you ride with that has a different bike, and maybe it's in an equivalent size. Ride that one around a little bit. Do the same thing with that. Notice the differences. Catalog the differences. I'm not talking about writing a manifesto. I'm just thinking, again, build that database. So when the time comes and you decide, I want to buy a ghost grappler, or I think I want a straggler, or I really think I'd like a Gorilla Monsoon. I'm leaving the Tanglefoot stuff out because there's going to be people that you can talk to about that. James, Candace, me, most of their other dealers, I would guess. Start to build that base of information. So if you can't find that bike locally, you can go to the numbers, compare it to the numbers you've either got on paper or in your head, and make an informed decision about size, about whether you think you're going to like it or not. Is it going to do what you need it to do? That way you don't buy something blind and end up disappointed. This arguably should be things that people have been doing or should have been doing long ago. And I want to stop and say, if you've been with me for a long time, I don't need to tell you this. I understand. But you likely know somebody that needs to hear this, in which case, share it with them. Or it's somebody new that's just coming to the channel, and they may need to hear it. In which case, if you are new, click the thumbs up and make sure you subscribe. So that's the kind of revelation that I had. This conversation with this customer, the fact that all these bike shops are getting bought up. The overall just lack of product in general. It's time to take control of your bicycle future. It's kind of overstated, but you know what I mean. Let me know what you think down in the comments. I hope something good happens to you today. Till next time, be nice, work hard, ride bikes, play music when you can. I'll talk to you soon.